Hello and welcome to Wait, It Gets Better, the improvisational storytelling podcast. We listen to a lot of audiobooks, and that gives us lots of ideas for you. I'm, of course, Levi.
I'm Reed.
And I'm Seth.
And we are Wait, It Gets Better. We are a improvisational storytelling podcast. We take randomly assigned story elements, use the power of our imaginations, and try and create something interesting. What elements did you guys have this week?
Well, first, I'd like to say that obviously we listened to a lot of audiobooks because they didn't teach reading until the fourth grade.
Hilarious.
Anyways.
What story element did you have, Seth?
I had beginning scene.
That's great.
I have prophecy.
And I have government type. Should I go first since it's nothing to do with the beginning or the before the beginning?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, this is kind of something based on a book you're reading as well. So I'm working my way back through the Dune series. If you guys haven't read the Dune series, you should at least read Dune, the first book. And if you feel like it, you should read the rest. The rest are weird and different. And I'm currently on God Emperor of Dune, which is, I believe, book 4. Mm-hmm. And it is weird. I'm not going to spoil it, even though it's like 50 years old at this point. I'm not going to spoil it because it's too good. I'm just going to use my government type as a part of it. So the government type is a total and complete tyrannical dictatorship by one person who is trying to teach everyone a lesson, right? So he arose from the ranks of a sort of a rebellious kind of turmoil where the whole planet or the whole known world was kind of falling apart and starting to fracture off, and it was going to be civil war. It was going to be years and years of civil war, and he kind of rose up, like being able to convince people to follow him. And it wasn't until he had kind of whipped up enough almost religious fervor, almost people they weren't worshiping him, but they were he caught enough of people's attention and caught enough of people's attraction that he kind of changed his message from, saving people, preserving humanity and stuff like that to really like, I'm going to teach humanity a lesson. And people, they saw it coming. Some people saw it coming, but they didn't see it coming soon enough. And people are still trying to figure out what this lesson is. It's about 30 years.
Interpretive dance.
Yes, exactly. No, interpretive dance is how he communicates it. The interpretation is still up in the air. So it's about 30 years since he kind of caused total and complete regime change, right? So all government officials were taken out and executed, shot, hung, whatever. And all the government functions through him. There's a couple of key tenets of this government. One is that he has completely done away with any kind of vehicles, right? So if there were horses, if this is a medieval thing, there's no more horses. Owning saddles and riding bareback is not allowed. Everything's walking. He makes it really difficult for you to organize against him because of how he has this set up. Transportation in between like towns and cities and stuff is like also basically completely forbidden because he is like clamping down and stopping people from being able to move. The other thing is that all of his government officials were at one time rebels. So he doesn't necessarily hate rebels or people who are in rebellion to him. What he does is he finds them, he allows them to foster their feelings of rebellion, and then summarily captures them and then has a conversation or shows them what his plan is, and they always turn over to his side and start working for him. So he has some of the most intelligent, some of the most fiercely loyal, some of the most innovative people working as his government agents because These aren't people who thrived in mediocrity or thrived in a bureaucratic system because they were all rebels. And they keep that kind of sense of fervor. This is what's allowed him to take only 30 years and accomplish, the same amount of kind of social change as it would take someone else like 100 years because of this kind of really aggressive vision.
So does he travel around though?
No.
Is there no how do people in outlying districts know what he has decreed?
He has a series. He has his prophets. He has a series of people who, wear his clothes and say his words.
Okay.
He tries to stay away. It's rumored that he is going to show himself, once every, 15 years or once every 5 years or something like that.
So these prophets are these people who go and make proclamation on his behalf will walk from town to town.
Yep, or they'll ride.
Yeah.
He wants to take away modes of transportation from anyone else. Keeping people isolated and keeping people kind of oppressed. Forced tranquility is kind of how it's like, I'm going to be really cruel, but you're going to live like a really simple life, essentially.
And so people fashion their own tools and make what they need to make and grow what they need to grow. And there's not really commerce that crosses barriers.
Yeah. There might be some, but it's like what you can carry on your back or what you can cart.
Yeah.
Like main highways or thoroughfares and stuff like that. No, that's all.
Yeah.
So imagine if it was like World War II or even modern day. He would have destroyed all the highways and repurposed all the vehicles into like, generators or machines, Mm-hmm. And so there's trains that run and there's helicopters and planes still, but like you would spend your whole life, 20 miles away from where you were born.
Yeah.
So, and this is pretty much bit for bit taken from a lot of the Dune stuff, but I feel like we can kind of mold it away if we need to, because there's a lot of things in Dune that are specific to Dune that I don't necessarily want to rip off, but Dune's the most ripped off piece of science fiction work that exists besides the Bible. So, I think we're okay there. But that's the government type. So it's tyrannical, but it's not, it's tranquility. Mm-hmm. It's boring tranquility, That's the government type. And my thought was that it was a kind of modern age, so there's helicopters and cars and things like that, but people mostly, like I said, live and work 20 miles from where they were born, and some people are really content for it. And everyone has an opinion about why he did this, why he's doing this, what this means. But no one like really knows why.
So like there was a process by which he consolidated power, and it was very chaotic and warfare, like the doing away with the old system.
Yeah, but it was like one part chaotic, but it was through charisma and then a religious like fervor and then social pressure. Like, I want to stress a lot, he has brought about 30 years of peace.
Yeah.
Crime is down. Violent crime is down. But people are kind of like a caged animal, even if they're being given everything that they need to survive. A caged animal, or let's just put it a different way, a caged human, even if they're being given everything they need to survive, they will rebel against the system because they're in a cage.
Yes.
And he's not like unaware of that. So in the Dune series, the God Emperor does basically the same thing to the universe, and his effort is to basically give the entire the entire universe a genetic memory to never let themselves be under a single leader ever again, right? So he basically creates this really terrible situation that locks it into every single person's psyche to never accept a single leader, a messiah-like single leader ever again.
And yet he is
But yet,
the absolute ruler.
So it's a self-sacrifice. He does it because he cares so much, but everyone views him as like this kind of power-hungry, terrible person. But in reality, he's doing it for you. He's doing it so that when humanity eventually comes out of the other side, they'll never be locked into that place ever again.
Cool.
I don't know if that's what this guy is trying to accomplish, but that's this government type. What do you guys have? Anything interesting world building like that I can use to explain my incredibly confusing and probably impossible story element?
So I got a little bit of world building. So I've got beginning scene, but then kind of with how that's playing out, tell me if this might work out as a good idea for something. My beginning scene, and it doesn't have to be baseball, but some kind of sporting event, ball game, right? In light of that, perhaps the idea I had that would be kind of world building would be that's how either a kind of resistance movement is like passing information along.
Okay.
Right. So like at a lot of ball games, right? Like baseball, they'll have like their hand signals or different jeers or things that then they pass along what how to play, right? Right. So if it's like, let's strike this guy out, throw a fastball, like kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. They'll all have like their little lingo. And so perhaps it's in kind of an authoritative structure, right? You got to have bread and circus. This would be kind of that thing. And it's something that perhaps is allowed to kind of give that unified like thing to get behind.
Right. Plus they'd be allowed to travel everywhere.
Correct. And so it's kind of like that, you're on, these good terms, you get to travel, but then what's happening with them, and it doesn't have to be baseball. It just, I think, baseball was what was on my mind earlier. But, I'm thinking like football, right? Before they do the thing, they're like red 42, sky, gray cart, height or whatever, right?
Yeah. The battle
and so
language.
In this kind of innocent kind of like play calling, right? Or even because it would go between the teams, right? Almost in the way I was thinking about it, like they've set it up or infiltrated into it to kind of set up that each of these different teams are like the different like militia things.
Okay.
And so like passing the play would be like, here's the information we had, right? And then if we play like this, it would indicate that like this is where our like internal movement has gone. This is right. And so they've kind of figured this all out. And kind of to bring it back to just to prop up Tolkien here, he had, I think you've got it yet because I don't see it up here on my shelf. Secret Vice, right? And it's all kind of about this very thing, right? Like coming up with a secret language, how to like pass that information along, and like all the secretive ways of doing stuff like that. So anyways, to tie that into the beginning scene where they're at this sporting event, right? So it kind of opens up as the players are taking the field, and they're kind of making their signals as to where they want people to play. Again, my mind was thinking baseball, but it could be any kind of made up ball game sporting event for this world, right? And then kind of showing like where there's like kind of the plays being made, but then catching that like something was off, and then an intensity kind of in the air as then this was passed around that something more sinister was up, right? And then that kind of being the opening scene where it kind of either as the reader or viewer or however that would be taking kind of like, oh, it's kind of like this game. They start making the plays, but then a kind of an air of seriousness, some new information, and then it starts flashing. Plays are changed. There's a commotion in the in the stands. Something's happening, right? Kind of then playing in that would then expose that that's really what they're doing, not just calling their play, but passing information along to each other. And
right.
That would be your opening scene.
Well, I had this idea too, as you were talking about it, that the teams, like because the armies were like turned over and kind of cast out in like a spirit of, I don't know what the word is. It's not anonymity. That's not the right word, I don't think. But the leader allowed the creation of these teams and out of the kind of core groups of the previous militaries, right? And then they still have these games, and it's kind of like, see, there will be no more war. We will just conduct these games in order to reduce, in order to like determine the outcome of things, right? And so it's kind of like, think of like SEAL Team 6, the baseball team.
Yeah.
They've got like all their secret hand signs that they used to use in like fighting, but now they use in this secret language, like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
And I'd say it could go either way, that this was then grassroots moved up from it, or this leader guy kind of is aware of this and kind of lets it happen. But I don't know. We'll see.
And I think the prophecy stems from the writings and the teachings of I'm going to call him the emperor, the one who consolidated power and did so by showing, teaching that, the evil of the petty tyrants that were grasping for power and then building weaponry and armament and arms and going and fighting and imposing their will on others and the emperor gathering loyal followers to just put an end to that kind of nonsense. And then now we're basking in like into the second generation of peace, but with this indoctrination that from the seeking after power is the corrupting influence, and that it's that corruption that brought the misery and terrible consequences to the world. And so now you have this bedrock of teachings, but embedded in that is that the prophecy that any effort to exert power and control must be resisted and not allowed to take authority, right? And the prophecy is that the shackles of authoritarian rule will come off and enter into this time of, I don't want to use the word utopia, but
A golden age.
a golden age, right? Exactly. And so this prophecy is the kind of the bedrock of everybody having a hope for the future, yet kind of locked into this complete shutdown of all the old systems. And so the idea is that hidden within what the emperor has created is the seeds of its own destruction.
So I was thinking about that. I was thinking about, what if the emperor himself knows about the prophecy, right? Was able to seize power, but then judges the world and those who would have power in the time where he seized it as totally morally corrupt and devoid of any conviction.
Right.
So he says, what I have to do is I have to find a way to create a government. I can't create the government myself that gives people freedom because I'm already the tyrant. No one will ever accept that. What I have to do is I have to fill my government with enough people who have convictions and feel, and I have to teach them what is right and wrong. And then I have to create such a cruelness, such a cruel system that they rebel against me, that the people that I've raised into the government will rebel against me because I am just so cruel. Because if you think about it, would America have been founded in the same way without the cruelty of other countries? It wouldn't have.
No, of course not.
It would have been really profitable. It would have been full of adventurers, but it would never have risen to the ideas of equality, the ideas of liberty, that it rose because of the oppression of other countries. It didn't rise in a vacuum. You know what I mean?
Right.
So he basically sees this and says, I am going to, maybe he rises to power and he's trying to create the world in a way that's good. And that's for the first couple of years. And then this prophecy kind of comes up and he notices this and then has to like reevaluate his whole design. And so then he is now getting rebels into his government, and then year after year ramping up the cruelty, and not like burning, orphanages, full orphanages down right now, but that's on his timeline if people won't rebel against him and burn his throne to the ground, because he's like, I have to continue to ramp this up. So in some ways, he's kind of the hero. In some ways, he's kind of the one who's going to save everyone, even though he's going to take the place of the one who is, everyone. There's going to be rebels who are going to view him as a cruel tyrant and are going to fight against him. And he's going to fight against them with every effort that he has until they kill him and are able to. That's a big bet. Any other things you guys want to add before we call this one a day? I think this is going to be a cool one to visit next week with new elements.
I think that's kind of a decent setup for now.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how the game thing, how the game and then the language, how that sort of all adds in.
I was thinking that rather than baseball, it would be soccer, because we're having we're recording this on the day of the World Cup final, and
is it really?
Yeah, and
or we could just be Americans and have it be baseball.
Yeah.
Could.
Okay.
Yeah, it's soccer because America would never do this.
Yeah, it's soccer because it's like worldwide, tyranny and a bunch of sheep living in subjection to this. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't help it.
Yeah.
Can't help myself.
The real rebels in this story play baseball because everyone knows.
Everyone knows.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Wait, It Gets Better, the improvisational storytelling podcast. If you have any questions that you would like to ask us, feel free to email us at waititgetsbettercast@gmail.com or send us a text message send us a message on Twitter at @getsbettercast. We would love to hear from you. We would love to see you. We would love to talk to you. And until next time, don't forget to wait, because it gets better. Cut.